Welcome back to Leadership Rules, where we believe leadership isn't just a role, it's a way of life. Whether you're leading a team, a community, or simply leading yourself, we're here to help you unlock the rules to lead your life with purpose and impact. I'm Nick Caniglio, joined by my co host Marnie Stockman. Together, we co authored Lead It Like Lasso and The Business of You. And today, we're thrilled to have Don Philabaum on the show with us.
Yeah, we are. So let me tell you a little bit about Don's background. He's a pioneer in online communities, social media strategy, and the evolving world of AI. So, as founder and CEO of multiple ventures, including Talent Marks and Talk to Me 24 by 7, 24/7, I'll have to ask how you prefer to say that. Don has spent decades helping more than 1,000 organizations acquire, retain, and engage people through technology. He's the author of several books. I really liked the ideas behind Change It and The Unemployed Grad. And today his work spans student athlete NIL opportunities, conversational AI, and reimagining how colleges and companies prepare the next generation of leaders. So
How'd we
welcome.
do?
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Perfect. Did we get the bio right, Don? Does that sound right?
Yeah, like any other kind of career, there's a million steps along the way. And as one of my advisors said, Don, along the way, you're going to kiss a lot of frogs. Anybody that's start in a startup business will have experienced that.
I love that. Now I have to ask one of the organizations that Marnie mentioned at the outset was Talent Marks, and doing a little digging. For those in the audience, probably know my son worked at the Career Center at the University of Georgia, and can you just talk to me a little bit more about Talent Marks, or specifically, and the work you do with universities out there, and why it's so important to you?
Sure, absolutely. As any organization, you kind of pivot over time. We originally went into the world of career centers thinking that career centers should be outsourced, much like the food services, the bookstore,
Mm.
finances, payroll. All of these departments are literally outsourced to other third-party vendors. And at one point in Ohio, Governor Kasich asked for proposals on organizations to do shared kind of services programming. And I said, hey, why not have one central organization help all 48 career centers, community colleges, state colleges, put together a 24/7 online kind of career center environment. And you could then have everyone at a super level staff with people that can handle in a very kind of niche oriented area. Veterans could be supported, students from international students would be supported, stuff like that. So we originally went in thinking that the career services is something that should be outsourced, um, but colleges feel that their career center is an important part of their service to individual, even though they don't invest in it, even though one career advisor could support 5,000 students, even
Yeah.
though they don't keep up with technology. So we've pivoted over time and done a lot of different things to generate the revenue in the organization.
Awesome. Awesome. So we like to start with some quick icebreaker questions, and we're going to get back to that whole support of career services and really loving the fact of preparing the next generation of leaders. That's something that's near and dear to both Marty and myself's hearts. But some quick rapid fire questions, just to get to know you real quick. So I'm going to start with first concert, best concert. What's your first concert? What was the best concert that you've ever been to?
I'll go back to Kent State University, and I was in the Memorial Gym, and a guy with a band from New Jersey called Bruce Springsteen
I was going to say, is
was
it Bruce
performing.
Springsteen? Yeah.
And later, an article was written where Bruce was at an after-hour party after that event, where he said to the student who was organizing that event, and again, there were maybe 1,000 students in the gym at that point. He said, "Boy, I hope we can keep the band together a little bit longer. I think we're gonna make it." And I always look at that as an example that fast forward, if one person's girlfriend got pregnant or one person decided they go work in the factory or something like that, we wouldn't have had that experience with Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, that's
Wow.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Coffee or tea?
I definitely coffee,
All right.
strong black.
Perfect. Dog or cat?
Dog, but we currently are a cat family.
How do you like to do your reading? Paper book, audio book, or electronic book?
Oh, it's all online.
Online.
Love it. All right. A little more, little deeper on this one. Leadership. Is it more art or science?
Yeah, it's a combination. I mean, there are born leaders, and that in itself becomes an art just because you are a born leader. I like to say you're not a born job seeker, right? That's something that you learn along the way. But certainly, there's a lot of art to leadership, and many people have to recognize that they aren't leaders of their organizations. They need to get out of the way so that someone else can lead. As an example, I'm a terrible manager of people. And mistakes I made in my life was attempting to manage the smaller organizations that I was running.
So we definitely get the sense that you. So we always talk about that you need to lead yourself first. You need to understand yourself and your strengths and weaknesses to know not to put yourself in roles that might not suit your style, etc. So we can appreciate that. Now, so you have, like you said, there are lots of paths along a journey in a career. So you started in photography, built one of the largest commencement photography firms in the world, and then pivoted into online communities and AI. So what leadership lessons, aside from you don't want to manage people, carried throughout all of those traditions or transitions?
Yeah, in my particular case, it's follow your curiosity, right? How can you jump from having a photography company where you have 150 photographers running around on a graduation season, taking pictures of students, and then managing the mailing of 200,000 photos. Um, that all was built around technology that got me into the next business, which was building the alumni online community. So that, that curiosity, following what that core essence of what you are, allows you to grow as an individual. And in many cases, in my case, once I get something, I start to get bored with it. I'm ready to move on.
Love that. And as we've written a book on about the power of Ted Lasso, one of our favorite lines is "Be curious, not judgmental." So all things curiosity is very important to us. Um, we saw that you registered at onlinecommunity.com way back before social media is what it is today. We're curious, what did you see back then around community that leaders are only really starting to take advantage? What made you do that? What was the big deal about starting that back then?
So this was 1997, 1998. And I was definitely interested in developing a way in which we could communicate with other people. And so we created what we called Student Access, an online community for students. We invited students to visit and take over home pages and display their portfolios. Well, students didn't come, but pornographers came. And I had two young daughters, and I thought, I don't think I want to be in the entertainment business. So we did a quick pivot and went to the alumni directors that we worked with and said, why don't we put the alumni online directory online? So that started the building of a new business within a business where we created online directories, communities related to online giving, event registration, class notes. And today, every college in America has some kind of online environment for people. So for me, it's all been about people are going to be online and connecting. This is what 7 years before Facebook came around
Yeah.
and LinkedIn.
So when you see Facebook and LinkedIn and you've seen the rise in popularity, uh, what do you think? I mean, do you have regrets on maybe not taking in that direction? Where are you coming from with that?
Well, we're going to focus on leadership, it's not only who you know or who, but who knows what you are capable of doing. And
Yeah,
it's all about connections. And we'll talk more about that today. Uh, and a bit of luck. So I like to tell my kids I invented Facebook, but too early. And there's a theme where a very, very common statement: the pioneers don't make it, but the settlers do, right?
yeah,
So anybody who's been in a startup is aware that you got to be pretty lucky. You got to know the right people, and you have to have the right timing for your product and service.
so true.
Yeah. So that reminded me of, in your recent writing, you highlight how student athletes are becoming entrepreneurs in this NIL era, right? So you can kind of see the transition of how we're landing where we are. So, what leadership qualities do you think student athletes develop that corporate leaderships should be paying attention to?
Wow. I think the college recruiters that right now need to be thinking about student athletes as a prime candidate for their organization. When you think about it, STEM hires are really important. Anybody in programming and health science and stuff like that. Um, Programmers right now are not necessary because of AI, but you have student athletes who are starting up their own sports marketing business, right? They're creating content, they're sourcing merchandise, they're selling, they're handling their finances, they're negotiating their contracts. I mean, these are kids, I'll call them, that are in addition to their academics, their athletic time and requirement, they're also investing time in a startup. Well, you and I know that a startup business requires full-time attention. So any student that comes into an opportunity to work for your company has teamwork as a skill behind them, time management, goal setting, in addition to all of these business kind of acumen that they have developed pretty much on their own.
So
Yeah,
it's interesting
yeah,
you say that. We have written a book called The Business of You, and it is all about not just being the CEO of your life, but you also have to manage all of your other departments, like your finance department, your marketing, how are you branding yourself, et cetera. So very much appreciate that idea that you just talked about.
Yeah, terrific.
so
And you're right on in terms of that kind of focus. You are the CEO of you.
yeah, you are our kind of person too, Don. So this is awesome so far. So you broached the subject of AI, and we've seen that you've written about, you know, the one way to use AI is as kind of a 24/7 coach that might even replace or clone a professor. And we talk quite a bit about AI as well, and we're always interested in hearing the perspective of where you think the line should be drawn between AI support and human interaction and mentorship. Do you have a take on that?
So first of all, AI is opening an opportunity, especially for Gen Z. They get it. They're creating virtual friends, right? When you and I grew up, we had Bobby and Sally and Andy, and we would hang out and call our friends. Well, today's kids have an opportunity to create virtual versions of their friends. Do I want a British sounding friend who knows all about football, soccer, in
Yeah,
like Ted Lasso's team, that could communicate with me about sport? I can create that person and talk about the last game, and that person will be able to tell me about who scored, and we can argue about that. This generation is going to be aware that it spending time with a virtual entity will make them a whole person. And I think for our leadership, we have to explore how that could be leveraged to have a better understanding of how to manage our people, in addition to how to deliver our services to our customers, in addition to our own life, to be able to have someone to talk to 24/7. to your point, it gets back to you're always going to need to touch a real human. And we'll talk more about the value of that. But having a virtual self 24/7, 7 days a week, on weekends, whenever, to be able to refer to, and then it's through glasses that we're communicating. Hey, Virgil Don, I'm in a situation right now, and I think the battery on my car has just died. What do I do? And I'm getting personal advice just like that on the next step. Well, who do I call? Oh, call Pep Boys. They'll help you out.
Yeah. Yep.
So along the same lines, you've talked about career centers and how AI is impacting things, and have had ideas on how career centers can really be different today. So, what resistance do you see most often in colleges that you think the leaders maybe need to push past in this very different world?
Yeah, this would be true of any organization. There's a great deal of resistance, even today, to AI, not knowing, it's the fear of unknown, and there's also the fear of replacing me, right? So, with artificial intelligence, 2 years ago, we had a 4-part webinar series for career professionals, and we had 700 from around the country participate in this event. A huge number for us, because in the past, if you had 50 attend a webinar, that would be great. And the end result was, again, 2 years ago, the fear was hallucinations. The students are going to get the wrong information. We have to control that information source to them. And everything has changed today, where I can put guardrails around the kind of information that is sent. More students could be given career advice. We have a program where a virtual career advisor will call every incoming freshman. It could be 10,000 students in 1 week contacted, asked 10 questions. All of that's databased in a CRM file. When that student calls into the career center, up pops their phone number and the past database information that the virtual agent had done. I did some research on it, and I found if there were 500 students in that class that this agent had made calls within 1 week, it would have taken 4 months for the college to do that.
Yeah.
And the college wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's leverage technology for the better, and we're finally at a point, like you said, where the concerns, I mean, there are obviously still some concerns about it, but so many of them have been alleviated with certain guide rails for sure. Um, and that technology, we're talking about it a lot, but uh, it's kind of fascinating to me because Marnie and I often talk about building a personal board of advisors, similar to a company having a board of directors. Individuals need to have, the challengers, the mentors, the connectors, the people that can truly, um, be that 360-degree support system for us as individuals. And it seems like with Talk to Me 24/7, you have kind of built a platform to support everybody, young people maybe specifically, in terms of mentorship. Can you talk a little bit about that solution and how that works and what the value of it is?
Yeah, Nick, very insightful, brilliant question. And actually, we got involved in conversational AI through our NIL experience. So, athlete career training, we created, and I didn't think of it this way, but I like your term. We created, call it a board of advisors, but we have 7 advisors that are focused on health, contracts management, just NIL in general, um, training aspects. So these are actual virtual people that we've given names to, and I can click on one and ask, hey, I think I have a hamstring injury. What do I need to do? The NIL expert we call Max. Hey, Max, I'm about to build my brand. How do I do that? And they have a conversation, and then the student gets a printout of that conversation. So exactly what you're talking about. we're doing that with NIL, but I love the idea of individuals. It goes back to what we talked about earlier. This Gen Z will understand the value of having a group of people to advise them, and that kind of um, nurturing that they're going to get from those people will kick them up. We can train AI to know when Don should be talking to Nick or Marnie and say, hey, I think I've given you about as much as I can in this area. Now you need to talk to Nick.
Awesome.
Is it what else do the humans need to do to keep an edge over AI? I don't think all human coaches are going to fall off the map or the career ladder tomorrow. What else is critical for the human element here?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I'm struggling with it because I tend to think I'm a creative person and I love coming up with ideas. I love writing. But after I've discovered how efficient AI is at writing articles, I- whereas I might have written 2 articles a month, I'm writing 3 articles a week with the help of AI, which are written better than I'm able to write. I used to think I was great at writing emails because I wrote emails all the time. And now I do a hybrid. I take AI and that can help. Bottom line is um, we all need to be, at this point, absorbing and learning how to use AI. I learned every day. The other day, I took the people who had responded to a LinkedIn article, and it was in regard to Career Center um, should be doing more. And so I took the 50 people that responded to that article, threw it into AI, and it said, what percent of these people are working for higher ed? And it was like 2%. The people that were responding weren't the people who should have been listening to that article. In another case, I did the same thing with with an article that was written probably 10 years ago where an author had identified the mission statements of alumni associations. And I always proselytize that alumni associations should have in their mission, vision, goals statement that they're going to help alumni get jobs. So in this particular case was a wealth of information to see, okay, what percent of the alumni associations did have a statement about helping alumni get jobs? Well, it turned out I just took all of those mission vision statements, which were like 67, threw it into AI, and came back with a result of 4.5% had a statement. All of them were focused on giving back to the institution, requiring alumni to contribute, yada, yada, everything you can think of alumni relations. So, I mean, we all are kind of starting to think, well, how can I use this? And as we get it, I think it's just going to take off even faster in the next 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, we could not agree more with that. So we like to ask most of our guests, right? We work with a lot with accidental leaders. We work a lot with emerging leaders, young people. If there was one thing, and I'm going to ask you, Don, to maybe say, with the exception, let's rule out AI, learning, understanding how to use AI these days. But if there was one thing to prepare for the next decade, if you're speaking to an emerging leader, what would it be?
The old adage, people do business with people. People need to keep in mind that you can do all the marketing you want, uh, but if I know Nick or Marnie and they will pick up my phone call, that's worth 10,000 emails that I might send out today. And so any leader, any student needs to understand that you need to build a personal network, a professional network, and do things for that network. You know all the adages, do things for other people and make deposits in their account, and it'll come back to help you.
Love that.
Yeah, all about that. So this podcast is called Leadership Rules. So we always like to ask as our last question, what is one leadership rule that you live by and that you feel like more people need to understand?
Um, I I think it's always changing. For me personally, I'm always willing to see how do we improve a function, a task, a situation, and generally I go to technology for that. But in this very fast-paced world that's coming uh, ahead of us in the next decade, being able to accept change, look for change, nourish change, love change, we're all going to have to get on board, or it's going to be a pretty stressful career.
Embracing change. I think that's a skill that took me a while to develop, but I think that is a multiplier for sure. And sometimes you got to take a chance and practice how to embrace change, because it does get easier once you kind of get used to it and you understand that you can become resilient. I think those are very, very wise words. So many wise words today, Don. I would love for you to share with our listening audience how they might be able to find out more information about you personally, or many. You have quite a few businesses out there. How do they find out more? Get in touch with you. Do all the things.
Sure, if you have a son, daughter, neighbor, nephew, niche that's involved in sports, go to athletecareertraining.com and try out our virtual coaches. Learn a little bit more about the NIL business. I think any athlete today has an opportunity to not only prepare themselves for what we've been talking about, but take advantage of earning money. It's a part-time job to be an athlete in today's world. So visit athletecareertraining.com. And then if you own a business, go to talkto me24x7.com and check out how your website could be communicating with people. You can take that first step where if you're a museum and someone comes to the website, one can be talking to the curator of the latest show that is at that museum. I was from Akron, Ohio, and we had the Inventors Hall of Fame, and I'm suggesting they have the ability for people to interview those individuals who are being inducted. How did they invent what they invented? How did they get started in their career? That's the beauty of what we're facing today, is that everybody can be talking to virtual celebrities and get inside tips and ideas.
That is fantastic. And we will make sure to put those links in the show notes so they are easily accessible. Don, we cannot thank you enough for spending a little bit of time with us. I think I know I have gained a new perspective on some things, and you have reinforced my perspective on a whole bunch of others. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate having you.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Marnie. Thank you, Nick, and thank you for the time that you're invested in this. I know it takes a good deal of time, and you're supporting a passion that doesn't necessarily always pay off, but it is very helpful for everyone that is watching it.
Awesome. Thanks, Don.